Hello, dear colleagues, and today we would like to share some experience with you about how we create and use NTA solutions in companies, and the question is whether we actually do need this in 2023. My colleague Andrei is going to share some experience with you, as well as Denis. What are the prerequisites? What would be the NTA solutions are we going to discuss with you? NTA is a new set of solutions, so we have it not everywhere, unlike traditional security solutions, networking solutions like NGFW, for instance. NTA allows you to analyze the network traffic and sees it where the traditional methods, conventional methods don't see it. Sometimes you can see the perimeter is not controlled really well because there are some good practical solutions and the perimeter is protected quite well, but the internal network is protected in a much worse way. So very often we can see it in a very fragmental way. So the question is the question of performance, the question of price. The firewall that relates to data center firewall is an expensive solution, as we may all know. And a big number of attacks, the biggest number of attacks in the companies occurs inside, so inner perimeter is supposed to be protected as well. So this NTA solution is one of the providers to SOC. In some of the segments, it may be just one source. So, for example, we may single out the systems that should be protected most of all, because all of the attacks to the computer-aided manufacturing systems are the most crucial ones. The solutions that had been used there for dozens and dozens of years that are very rarely modernized, and sometimes they are developed with no need for requirement for the cyber security. So in the computer-aided manufacturing, it's very hard to find such solutions, especially install some tracking devices and tracking software. So the telemetry solutions, networking telemetry solutions, may allow us to see what is happening in that segment. There is another headache, IoT, like, for example, sensors, smart home devices, video cameras that do not have proper support from vendors, which is yet another reality. When we work with the inexpensive Chinese solutions with the IoT, we need to understand that they are bad in terms of their security. If there is even a critical vulnerability occurs there, the vendor claims, well, we have a new version. We have a new version, you can buy a new version and replace it with a new one. But it's not suitable for everyone, of course. So NTA actually helps us see and control such devices. And the inherited devices and solutions and systems which are obsolete and are not modernized, we see them frequently. We cannot always put adequate protection at hosts due to the lack of performance, due to the lack of support. NTA helps here because it works with the networking traffic, because it does not require access to the hosts, and it will help you get access there. We started working with the NTA in 2017 or 2018. We were analyzing the NTA solutions market, which had been created by the time. It has so far changed quite significantly. So what we have analyzed, we've set up the following principles here. NTA, which dates back to 2017 or 18, should have this net flow. If you're not aware of net flow, it's telemetry, the session reports that we collect from the networking equipment. So it's required that vendor provides the intelligence service. Just some indicators would be sent that you would be able to detect the known threats. The AAA integration should be there. So networking traffic is very hard to relate to the users. Right here, you just need to have the AAA solutions so that you can verify the networking traffic and the account of the user and the machine which has been used for generating this traffic. And you could reveal and identify the TLS attacks without actually decryption, without decrypting that traffic. So we took that all into account as well, and you see that that's the NTA 1.0 architecture, 1.0 that we used there. It was made up of collectors, net flow collectors that collected that from switches, routers, data security devices, and wireless controllers, etc., databases where we had some telemetry for long-term storage and the retrospective analysis if required, if it was required, if some investigation was necessary or some longer-term interference, and the management console, which was required to process the telemetry, identify the abnormal events, and set the flow of events. That was used here. Also had the AAA integration, which was used by the proprietary protocol, and that integration was a part of the vendor ecosystem. Thus, here are some technical solutions that we tackled. The most difficult point here is how to read the telemetry, how to read the net flow. Net flow is supported by a bunch of manufacturers of the equipment, so we figured out that the best way here would be using the method of smart redundancy. So when we register the sessions in two places, as close to the user as possible, at the user router or switch where the session initiates, and closer to the server, as close to the server as possible. So that's how the traffic was registered twice. But thanks to deduplication function, we managed to avoid the distortion of the statistics, and this complete session was registered by the traffic analysis solution. This is how we placed the collectors which collected data from different sources and the net from the perimeter to the data center to other segments as well. So this is how we reached the full vision. The full vision, we managed to see how we see the internal traffic. We also managed to get a high level of redundancy. If some of the net flow components was not operational, we had a redundant one. Results-wise, that refer to NTA 1.0 will be covered by Andrei. Here are some numbers for you. 750,000 FPS per second, flow per second. As a very big number, I think the performance still has some extra power. We still have some extra power in the system. We were able to maintain long-term storage of telemetry of 140 days. for statistics and for investigation if necessary. So, and on the next slide, you'd be able to see the results. It may seem to you that this telemetry, what's so interesting about this telemetry? You can check the specification of the protocol.
Source destination IP.
You get the source destination IP, ports, all the other data required, user data when it's capable, when it's possible to read the user data, all these things. And here is a case for you. A person was working remotely for 3 years. He came back to the office and he launched the favorite Windows XP-based computer, for instance. And this Windows XP-based machine knocked on the door of the domain controller, and a year ago this had been put out of use, and you won't be able to actually learn about this machine that it appeared in the network, but it did appear. So the switch in the office sets up a session and the event in the host. That's what happened. And for example, you can use the illicit communication by using IPv6 protocol. We have some attacks and the implementation of the IPv6 protocol was utilized there. Seems like that it's difficult to track it any other way. The hosts and services, the services that are available from within, from outside, I mean, this system is really helpful here. It helps you actualize the information, makes it relevant. Because the infrastructure, which is a large-scale infrastructure, and it goes through very, very big phases of development, such services come and go, and sometimes it happens almost out of control. So one of the good results of the system use was shown to you. Whatever good it seems, we always want to do something better. What are the prerequisites for modernization of NTA 1.0? Well, NetFlow is the standard protocol, and each vendor sees it in its own way, and the profile the telemetry generates may be different from one vendor to another, and very often you cannot change the settings in the system. Let's take another example. You have a switch, for instance, a network switch, which processes a lot of traffic. NetFlow may be an embedded feature, but the resource dedicated to NetFlow is limited in that device, like for any secondary process. So we get this hardware piece degradation, or you'll get poor traffic visibility. So this problem does exist. And the TI service, which was a box solution provided by some of the vendors, was also vendor-related and vendor-restricted, but we actually want to use something else. We would like to have our own and more trusted equipment, not from a foreign vendor, in other words. So we came up to a solution that we needed to change something. Yes, and first of all, those were prerequisites that Andrei mentioned, and we came up with the new requirements that we need to come up with NTA 2.0, a very complicated geopolitical situation requires the use of the Russian NTA platform. It should be based upon the Russian solution, and it should be supported by the Russian Center of Competence. Like we all know, especially in 2023, it has become apparent to everyone. This net flow does not support sufficient information. It's effective. Net flow is efficient, but it's limited in its efficiency. It does not have any payload. What's encapsulated there, it's very hard to understand. So some of the attacks that may be conducted may not be recognized by this system or may be misunderstood. So this new solution should be able to work with a copy of the traffic. NTA 2.0 should be completely created by use of the homegrown infrastructure, which will be administered and managed by the cybersecurity experts without using the other departments' experts, for whom this system may not be of a high priority and may be instead a very annoying extra load. And should store a copy of an internet traffic to follow up the investigation of an incident. So, what about not this net flow, but this NTA 2.0? What's NTA 2.0 and its elements? We have completely changed the approach to data collection. Here we've implemented the system of data collection, which works independently from the networking equipment, and it's based upon the physical devices and the brokers of the network traffic. These solutions do exist, and they are Russian-made, and for lots of companies it's a very relevant thing. So the data collection solution allows you to take this traffic without changing the settings of the network devices. This system may be complicated and complex, but if it seems like to you, we have switch port analyzers instead, and any serious switch is capable of coping with that. But of course, it may affect the networking activity. The copy of the traffic is sent to sensors. The sensors consolidate it, and they send it to the NTA core. The NTA core of the system is responsible for feeding these events to the CEM system. So the SOC experts investigate all those things. And here is an expanded functionality of a system, city management. Thanks to that, we provide integration with the corporate catalog and a sandbox part, which helps you analyze and emulate the threats and suspicious things through virtualization. If we take a look at the physical infrastructure, NTA 2.0, right here we're using tabs. We use physical creation of a copy of a traffic at every segment of the network. They are sent to brokers, and the brokers get this copy of a traffic and they allocate it through the instances. In the current implementation of the NTA 2.0, the system may have a certain limitation performance-wise, which accounts for approximately 20 gigabit per second. But we can run a few instances in the system for different networking segments, And this traffic may be allocated, distributed, stored, analyzed. You can work with the traffic, in other words. Right here we can see, well, after NTA 2.0 was implemented, we used some pen tests tools, standard pen test tools. Or NTA 2.0, which works with a copy of a traffic, and NTA 1.0 that works with net flow. And you can see quite a lot of advantages demonstrated by NTA 2.0. It's been achieved entirely by working with the copy of the traffic. So in order to see how all these utilities work, you just need to work with a copy of the traffic, and you need to have this analysis of a payload. Yet the NTA 2.0 is supported by a Russian manufacturer, and some things that we have here that have not been conducted yet. So the efficiency is growing quite significantly. Architecture-wise, if we are comparing architectural elements, and if we take the impact it gets on the networking equipment, there is no impact on the networking equipment performance in the NTA 2.0 because it works with the copy of the traffic. Whereas NTA 1.0 had quite a lot of problems related to net flow, because with a lot of switching equipment, net flow is poorly standardized, or net flow has an extra load on the equipment. So NTA 2.0 has more advantages, obviously. Technically speaking, this solution was capable of finding less interaction with other departments. This system is completely maintained by cybersecurity experts. So we are avoiding this conflict of the IT people and the cybersec people. So here we put the spheres of responsibility exactly. We have the Russian support of the NTA 2.0, which is lacking with the NTA 1.0. In February last year, we remember that the vendors ran away from us. NTA 2.0 has the integration with other solutions with the use of the ecosystem provided by the vendor, which is great. Yet NTA 1.0 has more advantages in terms of scalability. It is capable of working with all of the amounts of traffic because we just work with the telemetry. As far as the investigation is concerned and the analysis of threats, for investigation with the NTA 2.0 we have more capabilities for that, unlike NTA 1.0, where we can only check the facts and metrics, but won't be able to see the traffic itself, whether it was a malware sent, whether it was a leak of the information. We cannot say that for sure. But Andrei will continue about our development, further development possibilities. Obviously, there are some technical stumbling blocks that prevent us from using this system at a fully fledged phase. It's not a secret to anyone that in large companies and data centers, there are some 40 gigabit per second and 100 gigabit per second. So the 20 gigs per second installation may be such a stumbling block and a very important limitation. So we identify the attacks in the encrypted traffic. The vendors have certain detections without the encryption, without the decryption. It is possible for some kind of threats, but also there is a system that collects data that Denis mentioned, or NGFW solutions. They have such capabilities of decrypting the traffic on the fly. You can do it by using them.
В эту тему стоит, мы считаем, копать, потому что
And I think this is the topic to be explored, because statistically we see that half of the traffic is encrypted.
и что касается масштабируемости, да, вот
As far as scalability is concerned, what's good with the foreign vendors is their
дружественные интерфейсы.
nice user-friendly interfaces and the consolidated management solution. It has been pointed out by a number of people here when Analytics 20 with a console is a real headache. So the third bullet point is we need to develop the scalability and have a more user-friendly interface, the console.
Выводы, скорее, наверное,
What would be the conclusions? I guess that's the answer to this question. So I think it will help you answer this question on your own, for your organization, for your customers. I think this is a very interesting solution. You need to develop it, and you should not be afraid just to start from 1.0 NetFlow-based solutions, because we obviously can see that it's a profitable solution. You don't spend too much money implementing such solutions. And there are lots of simple events like scanning, detecting of the host services, some indicators for leakage may allow you to detect such things. As far as the security department goes, SOC,
скажем так, это идеальный вариант, да, когда у тебя есть отдельная
the perfect option would be that if you have a standalone infrastructure to take a copy of the traffic which is working independently from the network. If you have this solution, it's a great option, but not affordable to all of the people. But depending on the traffic, depending on the interaction with the IT services, you can resolve that issue. You can find a solution. And the mirroring solutions are available. And I guess the future belongs to the systems of analyzing copies of the traffic, because they allow you to figure out the in-depth threat and provide some evidence for further investigation. They are not so...
Я думаю, что со временем, да,
they are more reliable, and with time these solutions will become more recognized in the market and more useful. I think we are done.
Коллеги, там вопрос.
You have questions, please do. Please use microphones for questions so that everyone can hear them. We can't hear it. Here is the microphone for you. What about the footprint? It takes quite a lot of footprint. And how long do you keep these logs? For how long? And it seems like that NTA does not analyze anything. It's done by SOC. How has the load on SOC increased since the implementation of NTA? And it seems like that you do not decrypt the HTTPS traffic and all other types of encrypted traffic. What about that? I'll try to take the first two, and Dennis will take the third one. The first question regarding the traffic. Well, 1 terabyte of traffic in the storage, it will take quite a lot of space. So the footprint is big. That's the biggest limitation. It will take a lot of space, storage space. The storage part is the most expensive part of the solution.
цифрой сметы вы пойдете.
So you just need to estimate, make a good estimate with which you will see the customer or the management and be able to show the list. The maths there is simple, but a little bit scary. But traffic is re-recorded in cycles. You have a strategy of long-term storage of the traffic, where some sessions are put in a storage for a longer term.
14 суток.
And we store it for at least 14 days and nights. That's the longevity. What was the second question? Could you please remind me about your second question? Those SOC events and SOC events. SOC is happy, by the way. Security Operations Center really likes this system. So, in actual fact, I wouldn't say that like you assumed. The system analyzes it itself and feeds the events correspondingly. So, SOC just needs to check and verify the record and use a guidebook or some other scenario. We track it. We keep good track of that.
Есть ручная работа, но ее...
So there is some manual work involved, of course, but not so much manual work involved here. So the detection works. Like Andrei was saying, we have quite a lot of SSL traffic, and its percentage keeps growing year after year. NTA is supposed to do something with it. So what would be the way here? The NetFlow solution, NTA 1.0, really did allow us, without decryption, use some networking equipment and use its brain and find some threats in there, typical threats, so that we need to connect to command centers, etc., without decryption straight in the traffic, so forth. That's a very interesting expertise which allows you, without doing much about this traffic, still find some issues there, find some threats. We would like to continue that in NTA 2.0. We also would like to have it there. And the second thing is that we'd send a copy of the traffic from the devices that are capable of decrypting SSL LLS. It's no secret for anyone that the perimeter firewalls are capable of doing it, because working with the web traffic and the control of web, efficiency is low. So this data should also be sent to NTA if needed. It can be used. But anyway, one of the things that we detect is that we need to develop the analysis of the encrypted traffic and work with some other ones, like SSH, for instance. We've been prompted that we are running out of time, so you can find us at our booth, if you like. And you can find it at a Russian vendor, if you like. A Russian vendor with competences.
Нет, это не отдельно от NTA, да, то есть это...
That's not separate from... That's not separate. It's a part of the support of this system.
Спасибо, коллеги.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your great questions, and have a nice day.